Arkansas maintains sufficient revenue for public service?
Sure. One of the most important things that we want to do, and that I talked about a lot and pretty extensively over the course of the 2 years on the campaign, and also was able to then put into action my first 2 years in office, is that we've been able to cut the state income tax not once, not twice, but 3 different times, moving our top rate from 4.9% to 3.9%. We never want to stifle productivity. We never want to keep people from wanting to work harder and more. And so it's a great thing that's been able to happen in our state. And because of that, we're seeing more companies, more people move into the state of Arkansas. Just in the last year, Arkansas is #1 for economic growth, #1 in the country for cost of living, and #1 for inbound movers. #1 in the country. People are moving to Arkansas, not Texas, not Florida, not Virginia. They're moving to Arkansas because they like what they see that we're doing by reducing some of that burden and letting people keep more of their hard-earned money in their pocket. At the same time, we've been able to invest heavily in things like education, public safety. So as long as we continue to grow our economy, which we are doing at a rapid pace, we can continue to responsibly phase out the state income tax, something I'm proud we've made significant progress on. And at the same time, one of the things we never want people to be burdened and hindered by is basic necessities. So by eliminating the grocery tax, we are providing that immediate relief for families who need it most at a time when things are getting more expensive over the course of the last 4 years. So providing that relief by eliminating the grocery tax will be something that will help every Arkansas family.
Yeah, and whether in the legislative session or not, what specific steps is your administration taking to address Arkansas's high maternal mortality?
You know, one of the things I did was convene a maternal health task force, and we were actually overwhelmed by the number of people from every corner of the state and stakeholders from the public sector, the private sector, the nonprofit world, all coming together for the first time ever and putting real ideas and innovation together so that we can tackle this problem, not as a one-off, but collectively and from a holistic approach. We have a number of recommendations that have come from this group that we're already starting to implement, pilot programs that we're running in different key critical parts of our state, where we've had some of the lowest performing numbers. We are very hopeful that we are going to see significant change and progress over the course of the next several months and years as Arkansas does a much better job of taking care of our maternal health. We know that healthy moms have healthy babies, and so that has to be a huge focus, and I'm proud of the progress that we've made and by doing it collectively with stakeholders from every part of our state.
Yeah, and with Northwest Arkansas seeing rapid population growth, driving up housing costs, what policies or initiatives is your administration considering to increase affordable housing?
You know, one of the best things that I think we can do is help people keep more of their money so that they have more purchasing and buying power, which is why we have focused so heavily on phasing out our state's income tax. We know it's one of the greatest equalizers when it comes to helping people be able to afford a better life, lower cost of living, and it's something that impacts everybody. And so that's a place where we've really leaned into. We're going to continue to do that, and I'm hopeful we'll be able to implement another income tax here in the course of the next year or so.
Yeah, and any plans to prevent displacement of those low and middle class or middle income residents?
Certainly we're proud of the growth that we have across the state, especially in Northwest Arkansas. There's a reason people are moving here. They like what they see. They love the fact that we're investing in education, that we're investing in our workforce, that we're investing in public safety. We're going to continue to look at how we make Arkansas the best place for every single person to live, to work, and to raise their families, and I'm confident we'll continue to make progress.
Yeah, and we kind of opened the floor to our viewers for questions, and something that we got a lot of questions about was the prison in Franklin County. What is kind of your response to people who oppose it?
Certainly, there are as governor, one of the most important responsibilities that I have is helping keep people safe. And every single member of the law enforcement community that I met with said their number one concern and biggest problem that they had was being able to lock up violent repeat offenders. We should never let somebody back out onto the streets, back into our community simply for a lack of space. Our county jails and our state prison are absolutely overwhelmed. We have to open up more bed space. We've been able to do that through existing prison facilities up to the tune of 1,500 beds. Unfortunately, it's not enough. It's not the place that you wish that you were getting to and having to spend money. At the end of the day, though, we have to do what's necessary to keep people safe. Being governor is about making hard decisions and hard choices, but doing the right thing is what is happening here, and we're going to continue to push forward and make sure people feel safe in communities across the state.
Yeah, and with the new administration coming in, there's been a lot of talks about ICE and raids. How is your administration collaborating with the Trump administration to carry out deportations that Trump has been talking about?
We're going to work closely with the Trump administration. We have to be a country that has law and order. We have to be a country that has a secure border, and we finally have a president back in the White House who understands that and is actually taking steps to enforce it. And so I'm proud of the fact that I had the opportunity to work for 2.5 years with the president directly, and now I'm proud of the fact that as governor, I'll be able to work closely with him and his administration to make our country better and safer, and I'm confident that we're going to continue to be able to do that.
Do you feel that you still have the trust of Arkansans, and if so, how do you plan to continue to promote transparency in your administration?
Absolutely. I'm really proud of what we've been able to do in a very short amount of time. The fact that we have been able to transform education, been able to heavily invest in public safety, focus on growing our state's outdoor economy. We had last year alone 50 million visitors to the state of Arkansas, spending $10 billion while they're here. That's been a big focus of my administration and a great success story for what's happening in Arkansas. We are firing on all cylinders here in the state, and I feel like we're just getting started, and I'm really excited about the things we're going to be able to do in this legislative session and hopefully over the course of the next 6 years.
Yeah, and in the wake of natural disasters in Northwest Arkansas, are there any steps your administration is taking to ensure timely and sufficient FEMA funding for those recovery efforts, and how are you planning to continue to support those affected communities?
One of the hardest days that I've had as governor are when our state has been struck by tragedy. There is very little that is harder to witness and see than a town that has been ravaged by a tornado, where people go from an easy day to losing everything in a matter of minutes. And so we saw that both in central Arkansas, in towns like Wynne, and certainly in northwest Arkansas. And we're working closely with local leadership on not just the cleanup, but now we're in the rebuild stage. And we're going to continue to work very closely with the communities that were impacted. Our state saw 17 tornadoes hit in 13 different counties over the course of 24 hours. That is a big and devastating impact to our state. But we're not going to finish until people are back on their feet and whole again, and we'll continue to work closely with them to make sure that happens.
Yeah, were you able to kind of get boots on the ground there and see some of that damage?
I was just within a few hours of the storm hitting both northwest Arkansas, central Arkansas, and the storms that impacted eastern Arkansas. Not only was I, but my team was on the ground, and great partnership that we've had with the local leadership as well as FEMA and our federal partners and our federal delegation, and we'll keep working hard to help the people of our state.
Yeah, so tell us, do you see a future for yourself maybe back in Washington, D.C.?
I love being home. Arkansas is where I was born and raised, and it's where I want my kids to grow up. And so I love that I get to be the governor of the best state in the country, and I hope that the people of Arkansas let me do it for another 6 years.
Yeah. Anything else you're looking forward to with the new administration coming in? Any changes you're hopeful for?
There are a lot of changes I'm hopeful for. I think one of the biggest differences is that we will actually have a partner in the White House instead of somebody that we are fighting against every single day. I think that we can expect for this new administration to give states a lot more flexibility with how we operate, whether it's through education or other grant programs. The Medicaid program, we announced a work requirement yesterday, and now we have an administration we can work with, and I think that we'll have a lot more success stories because of it.
Yeah, and with this legislative session right now, are there any bills that you think Arkansans should be looking out for?
Probably anything that I introduce should be something that is, but in all seriousness, I think there's a couple big things on the horizon. One piece of legislation that I think is really important and really critical for our state is the bell-to-bell, no cell phone policy that we are announcing, and hopefully will get passed this legislative session. We were able to run a pilot program over the course of the last semester in schools across the state, and voluntarily over 75% of school districts opted into this program. We've seen the success and the changes and the impact that it's already had in a short amount of time on our student population, and we know that this is something that will dramatically change for the better what's happening during school hours. Kids will have a greater amount of focus. Teachers aren't carrying the burden of being the phone police, and students' mental health, the anxiety, the depression rates that we've seen skyrocket, I think we will see a dramatic difference in those once this policy is implemented.
Absolutely, and some things we heard from our viewers is that there are students who maybe have health issues that they need to have their phones. Is that a possibility?
That's actually part of the original legislation, is that there would be exemptions for health programs as well as a number of other things that are listed.